Welcome to the Oak Hill Memorial Ceremony. They do such a fantastic job, and they're the host this year for Memorial Day. They put on a fantastic event. We're on the board with quite a few, maybe 20 to 25 people. It's hard to name them all. And we all want to thank everybody for all the help to put this event on. You'll see the tanks, the classic cars, and many speakers and guests that are going to be speaking today. So get the family, sit down, you're going to enjoy a great show.
Thank you all for being here today and for your invaluable contributions in honoring our fallen heroes. Together, we remember and pay homage to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation. We kindly ask that you stand for the posting of the colors and remain standing if you are able for the upcoming flyover, which will be followed by the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. The color guard is proudly provided by the United States Marines of Recruiting Station San Francisco, commanded by Major Chung Park and Sergeant Major Antonio Colon. Thank you, Sergeant Major. Please join me in welcoming Sergeant Brian Juergens, United States Army, retired and Purple Heart recipient, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in welcoming Chaplain Captain Scott Slater, United States Air Force.
Good morning. Won't you join me in a moment of prayer and reflection? Gracious God, on this Memorial Day we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in service of our country. From the founding of our nation in revolution, in civil conflict, through 2 world wars, in Europe, in Korea, in Vietnam, in Africa, in the Middle East, in every location which they were called. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and performed their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. God, you yourself have taught us that no love is greater than that which lays down its life for another. And the honored dead to whom we pay tribute today gave the most precious gift they had, life itself, for loved ones and neighbors, for brothers and sisters in arms and country, and for us. Help us to honor their memory by caring for the family members they have left behind, by ensuring that the needs of their wounded comrades are properly tended to, by being watchful caretakers of the freedoms for which they gave their lives, And though the names of America's heroes may fade with the passing of generations, may we continue to honor them by never forgetting what they have done. Teach us to remember that freedom is not free, and there are times when its cost is indeed most dear. And all Americans who have known the loss and sadness of war, whether recently or in an age gone by, can be assured of this: those whom they loved so dearly and so dearly miss are honored and remembered on this Memorial Day. Help us each one to pursue a life worthy of their sacrifice. It is in your most holy and magnificent name I pray. Amen.
It is my distinct privilege to introduce Mr. Chris Harper, the host of today's events. For more than 100 years, Oak Hill has been dedicated to honoring our fallen heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harper, the General Manager of Oak Hill Memorial Park and Funeral Home, will say a few words.
Hello everyone and good morning. On behalf of the management staff of Oak Hill Memorial Park and Funeral Home, I want to welcome you and thank you for attending today's Memorial Day ceremony. Today's ceremony could not have happened without the help and dedication of several organizations and people both within and outside of Oak Hill. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge them. All our military partners, just like our freedom, this event is something that would not exist without them. I want to personally thank everyone on the Memorial Day committee that assisted on putting together this ceremony. Your dedication to this event is amazing, and I am extremely proud of your work. To the over 250 Boy and Girl Scouts of America, their troop leaders and their parents that came out Saturday and today to place flags on veterans' graves, thank you. To the American Legion, for placing flags along the memorial wall. This has been a tradition here at Oak Hill for over 80 years. Our staff of over 150 dedicated men and women here at Oak Hill worked diligently to make this facility and this ceremony memorial and this sacred ground beautiful. I thank you all. In closing, today we honor the men and women who died protecting our freedom, and we say thank you to those who are still fighting for our freedom today.
Please join me in welcoming our esteemed members of Congress. Let us extend our heartfelt appreciation to Congress members Eshoo, Lofgren, and Panetta for their presence and their commitment to honoring our fallen heroes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Eshoo, representing California's 16th Congressional District. Since 1868, the villages and towns and communities in America have commemorated the fallen, beginning with those that lost their lives in the Civil War. And that is taking place today across our country. How important it is for us to remember those that said yes to the United States of America. When their country called, they stepped up without any hesitation. And they knew in the battles that they were in that they may not come home, and so many of them didn't. They left behind their families, because when someone steps up to serve, their family also serves. Their family also sacrifices. How proud we are as a delegation to represent communities that care so deeply. Each one of you, all of you under the shade of the trees here and elsewhere, you care, you remember.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I am Jimmy Panetta from the 19th Congressional District. As a U.S. representative, as a veteran, as a community member, as a countryman, every Memorial Day, I am absolutely humbled to see the crowds, to see the communities, to see our country come together and remember, pay their respects, and yes, ultimately revere those who fell while fighting to further our freedoms. There have always been men and women from every corner of this country, from all walks of life, that have stepped up, stepped into uniform, and stepped forward to serve our country, knowing that they may pay that ultimate sacrifice. That is why in Washington, D.C., when it comes to our veterans, you will always see Congress come together to care for them, for our active duty military, and for their family members. It is why just last Thursday, early in the morning, a group of Democrats and Republicans, all members who have served in our military, including myself, got together, got up and got down to the Vietnam War Memorial. We took some brushes, we took some buckets, we took some soap and water, and we cleaned that memorial. And it was at times like that in which you saw the names be highlighted by the soapy suds as they entered into the crevices. Times like that in which you realized that's the least that we could do for that memorial, for the 58,318 names that are inscribed on that memorial, and for the millions and millions of people who visit that memorial. Because what we realize is that those stone monuments are these tombstones that we're surrounded by today. What we realize is that those are the stones upon which this nation stands so firm.
Moving forward, I would like to express our gratitude to the members of Congress and now call upon our esteemed State Senator, David Cortese, to come forward.
Good morning. It's a privilege to be here with all of you once again. Each morning on the floor of the California State Senate, we do what we did here today when we were led by Sergeant Brian Juergens, a wounded warrior. We salute the flag, we say the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. Without partisanship, Republicans and Democrats alike stand up. There are no aisles separating us. And we do that in large part, even though the words may not explicitly say it, because we need to make sure and rededicate ourselves every morning to the proposition that those who died, who gave their lives on behalf of this country, did not do so in vain. That no partisanship, that no political views can separate or eradicate that sacrifice. Sometimes there's a saying we hear, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I don't know if that's true. I would defer to our wounded warrior, Sergeant Juergens, to speak to that. But what I do know is that those who did not come back, who did die on behalf of their country, did not make themselves stronger, but made this country stronger. And each and every one of us, particularly our elected officials, those of us who have the privilege to serve in elective office, I think have the obligation to make sure that this country is stronger and stays stronger because of those who paid the ultimate price.
At this time, we have the distinct honor of welcoming esteemed members of the County of Santa Clara Board of Supervisors to the podium.
Good morning. Thank you, Major Potts. As you can see, I'm also a retired U.S. Navy commander. My name is Otto Lee, also serving as the Santa Clara County Supervisor, District 3, representing Sunnyvale, Milpitas, Viso, and the rest of North San Jose as well. On behalf of my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, I'd like to present the following commendation, actually, to the Dignity Memorial right here for helping the community pay homage to the importance of the Memorial Day, to remember our fallen, to take care of our heroes 24/7 right here in the cemetery, resting in Oak Hill. I just want to invite the Oak Hill representative to come on up and receive this. I just want to say thank you for your continued support for our community and families and those who gave it all in service to our nation. Thank you for what you do for us all the time. Thank you.
It is now my privilege to invite another distinguished group to the podium. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to the Honorable Mayor of San Jose, Matt Mahan, accompanied by the members of the San Jose City Council.
Good morning. Very honored to be here with my colleagues, Councilmember Foley, Councilmember Davis, Councilmember Duan, Councilmember Batra. Standing here on behalf of the City of San Jose, I want to just start by thanking all of our veterans here, as well as our active duty service members. Thank you for your service to our country. And all of the volunteers who put out the flags and helped us pay due tribute to the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice to preserve our freedoms. May we continue to honor them by supporting their family members who continue to mourn, by supporting their brothers and sisters in arms who return home and ensuring that they have access to the support that they need to fulfill their potential, and by recognizing that the ultimate sacrifice made by our fallen service members is a challenge to each of us to serve our community in whatever way we can.
Supervisor Otto Lee of Sunnyvale, California, has been an integral part of shaping and serving the city as its 57th mayor before assuming his current role as county supervisor for the county of Santa Clara. Supervisor Lee is also a distinguished veteran of the United States Navy Reserve, serving our nation with honor and integrity. Today we have the privilege of calling Supervisor Otto Lee to the podium for a special task. As our keynote speaker also hails from Sunnyvale and is a member of the United States Marine Corps, it is fitting that Supervisor Lee has the honor of introducing our esteemed keynote speaker for this Memorial Day address.
Today, I'm introducing our keynote speaker, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Amatengelo A.J. Prosciutti, and more than 48 million Americans who have served in these armed conflicts, including more than 3 million that served right here in California. One of those 3 million service members is a brave American gunner, A.J. Prosciutti. A.J. is a Sunnyvale resident and was born in San Jose. He enlisted in the Marine Corps after the 9/11 attacks. He deployed twice to Iraq, including during the Battle of Fallujah. In September 2005, he played a crucial role in hunting down a notorious enemy sniper, the only sniper versus sniper mission since the Vietnam War. A.J. quickly rose through the ranks and was deployed as a recon team leader in Afghanistan from 2009 to 2010, and then returned to instructor duty with the recon training company from 2013 to 2017. Then he was selected for the highly competitive gunner program at Quantico, Virginia. He then served 2 deployments in the Indo-Pacific region. In 2020, he transitioned to the SOIW Infantry Training Battalion, where he began leading the creation of the Infantry Marine Corps, preparing Marines for the 21st century conflicts. Gunner Prosciutti's many decorations, including the Purple Heart, the Meritorious Service Medal, 2nd Award, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation, 2nd Award with Combat V, Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal with Combat V, 2nd Award, Combat Action Ribbons, and the bachelor degrees from the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and a Master of Business from the University of Southern California. And it is my deepest honor to welcome Gunner A.J. Prosciutti.
Good morning, distinguished guests. I'd like to take a moment to thank and give a moment for our Gold Star families and our families and friends of those missing in action. I too have been touched by war, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about that. I'm going to take my hat off because this is like the most uncomfortable thing in the military. Ghillie suits, all that kind of stuff. This is the most pain I've been in, is wearing that hat. My name is Angelo Prosciutti, and I'm going to tell you a story about the worst day of my life. The story begins with the flip of a coin. But before that, I want to take you a little bit further back. September 11th, 2001, I was a senior in high school at Fremont High School in Sunnyvale, California. I remember that day, Fremont, I remember that day that our nation was treacherously attacked, but mostly I remember the tears. 3 weeks later, I decided to join the Marines. Within a few months of joining the Marines, I shipped off to what would eventually become Operation Iraqi Freedom as an infantry Marine and a rifleman on the march up to Baghdad. After my return from Baghdad, I started training as a sniper within our sniper platoon and deployed to Fallujah as a sniper in training. The day-to-day fighting and the opportunities for carnage were some of the most profound and hardest moments of my life. After leaving Fallujah, I was afforded the opportunity to go to sniper school. Sniper school was one of the scariest things that I had seen at that point, and I suffered from a disability plague of self-doubt. A small kid, too big or too small for the high school baseball team, getting cut my freshman year. I never thought I could become a scout sniper. And then I met a gentleman in the Marines who understood the power of vision. And what he told me to do was write the word scout sniper, the thing that I wanted most in the world, on the mirror in front of my face, so every morning when I was shaving, I'd have the opportunity to visualize what success, the one thing I wanted in the world. So every morning as I was a student in Scout Sniper School, I looked at that and I envisioned success. Eventually in 2006, as Mayor Lee represented, I had the opportunity to go to Iraq and hunt a prolific enemy sniper. My team, through dedication, teamwork, and an awful lot of luck, were opportunistic and came out on top. What we were able to do is return a stolen Marine Scout sniper rifle back to the Marines' hands and avenge the deaths of over hundreds of American service members as they were stationed abroad. After I became a Scout sniper, I was afforded the opportunity to go to reconnaissance training course, become a BRC student, and move into the force reconnaissance realm. That same token that what I did was I wrote the opportunity and I wrote force recon on the mirror in front of me. So every day I visualized what I wanted to be most in the world. And ma'am, I see your shirt and I represent that, and thank you. At school, when I was at BRC, I met a gentleman by the name of Matt Ingham. He was an East Coast sniper and I was a West Coast sniper, and we immediately hated each other. We had this whole Biggie versus Tupac thing going on, and we had the idea that the West Coast snipers are better than East Coast snipers, and we all know the West Coast is the best coast. So eventually what happened was, as a sergeant with 3 deployments to Iraq and as a sergeant with 3 deployments in Iraq, we were fierce competitors. Matt and I had the idea of steel sharpening steel. He was my fiercest competitor, my closest ally through the course. Sleeping many nights on my couch as we studied and crammed and feared treading water the next morning. Unfortunately for Matt, our competition only sparked my desire to outwork him. I ended up graduating the course number 1, only beating Matt by a 0.05 percentile, therefore allowing him to be number 2 to my number 1, something I never let him forget. Our competition continued as we were given orders to 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion in Okinawa, Japan. My first time in Japan as a young sergeant, I fell in love with the culture and the opportunities, and Matt and I continued to be thick as thieves. We were stationed with 3rd Recon and given the opportunity to go into a 3rd Platoon, 3rd Recon Battalion. And what they didn't do was they couldn't split the 2 difference between the 2 team leaders. So Matt was a team leader and I was a team leader, and we couldn't decide who was going to be the number 1 team leader. See, in a reconnaissance platoon, your number 1 team leader is your strongest team, your A squad, your go-to. And naturally, Matt thought he needed it, and I thought that I needed it, and naturally our teams hated each other because of it. A little healthy competition, I'm sure. What this progressed into was we were in Hawthorne, Nevada on a training pipeline right before our deployment to Afghanistan. And our captain came down and our gunnery sergeant came down and says, Matt, AJ, I can't decide. We don't know. There's no difference between the 2 of your teams, and we're stuck. How do you guys want to solve this? Well, like 2 young, cocky sergeants, neither of us wanted to give up the number 1 team position, so we decided to let fate take hold. What we did then was we took out a quarter. And we took the quarter out, and the decision was that heads meant I was number 1 team leader, and tails would mean that Matt was the number 1 team leader. We flipped the coin, and with bated breath, the coin floated through the air, and we let it fall on the ground. It landed heads. And again, I was number 1 over Matt's number 2. And boy, again, I didn't let him forget it. As we deployed to Afghanistan, we were in an area called Nowzad in southern Helmand province. And in Nowzad, there's a small town on a little map that no one's going to remember and a name that no one will ever see called Bar Nowzad in Kinjaki Sofla and Kinjaki Olea. I'm looking across the field of many veterans who are recognizing that they've served in the same places or understand the same process that I'm going through. A little dot on a little map and a little place that no American will ever know, but our brothers and sisters have spilt blood and spent time in these regions. On January 11th, 2010, there was a mission that started. A few days prior to, Matt's recon team up in the mountains. So again, as reconnaissance Marines, we spend many, many days forward of enemy lines or behind enemy lines, scouting and patrolling and gathering information for the infantry Marines to be able to action. What Matt had done in a town called Bar Nowzad was he had found what we call an enemy's rear area. A rear area is where they come to rest and refit, where they come to where their commanders huddle, where they have black markets, and where they're not necessarily defending very heavily. Matt found their rear area, and what we decided was that we built a battalion-level raid based off the information off of a reconnaissance team. So January 11th, the mission comes down, we understand what we're going to do. Two reconnaissance teams are going to go forward, and on January 13th, on January 11th, we're going to do 48 hours of reconnaissance, and on January 13th, the infantry Marines are going to conduct a heliborne assault on the town of Bar Nowzad in Kinjaki Sofla and Kinjaki Olea. We understood that as the rear area, although not defended against specifically in that region, there are outer rings that protect the area fervently. We knew the mission would be dangerous, and so naturally, Matt and I both wanted that mission. So we fought and labored and pled our cases to the platoon commander, asking for the most dangerous mission we could find. And so what we did is we took it back to a coin flip. This time, Matt won. Tails came up. Matt took the mission in Bar Nowzad, and I ended up in Kinjaki Olea. What that meant was Matt was inserting with our mixed section of Hueys and Cobras, and they were going to give him a ride the night before, and I was going to take a vehicle up through the valley in Nowzad itself. As we moved up the valley, Matt's team already inserted. I watched them go and inserted their specific locations over the overhead imagery. I stepped into my vehicles and my team departed. My 8-man team moving up the valley. At one point, unbeknownst to us, we went through an enemy IED field or a minefield. And at that point, my vehicle struck an IED underneath my butt, for lack of a better term, and rocketed me into the ceiling of the vehicle, knocking me unconscious immediately. Similar to that vehicle over there with the crane on it, we had what was called an MRAP, a mine-resistant armored personnel carrier. When that blew up, the V-shaped hull saved my life, but it ripped the vehicle in half. As the vehicle came back down, it twisted the frame, and inside of it, we were able to get my gunner, my point man, and my radio operator out of the vehicle. As that happened, the vehicle shifted again, sealing me inside. Nothing too much to worry about at that, just a little bit longer inside of the vehicle. Unfortunately, a fire started in the front of the vehicle, and some of the things that we wear, familiar with what snipers wear, is called a ghillie suit. And a ghillie suit is basically a burlap suit that we wear over our shoulders to help protect us and hide us in vegetation. They unfortunately are highly flammable. And so I didn't like the idea of a fire starting in the front of the vehicle and moving towards the back. I remember struggling inside of the vehicle, trying to rip open the door, but obviously the thing is bomb-proof, so it wasn't moving much. The fire started to move back towards the back of the vehicle, moving towards the ammunition, and I knew this was my moment. I knew that this is where I was going to die. I knew this is where I was going to leave this earth, and I was going to do it on my terms. So I prepared to take my own life. I took my pistol, I took my sidearm out of my holster, and I put it to my head, and I was going to kill myself before burning to death. At that moment, a young Lance Corporal named Chris O'Connor ran across that IED field. He left his weapon, of which I had a conversation with him about later on, but he left his weapon, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and decided to run across this field and do everything he could to save his team leader. His moment of superhuman strength, along with the team, offered the opportunity to pry open the door enough that my little figure, being cut from the high school baseball team, finally worked in my favor. They grabbed me by the collar and yanked me out of the vehicle, effectively saving my life. . ' At that point, we have a saying in the Marine Corps that mission first. So the idea was, although our team was concussed, we were kind of seeing stars and losing ourselves. We decided that the mission still came first. We decided to reinsert and continue on our movement. We eventually moved into a position where we took a hide site in the mountains above Kinjaki-Olia and Kinjaki-Sofla. Matt's team was in Barnows at about 7 kilometers to our west and our northwest. And then we waited. We conducted our pre-raid reconnaissance, and then some things started to happen. What we see overseas is that everyone understands our rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement, the thing that we try to do as American service members is operate from a code of honor, a code of ethics, of understanding as best as we can to be able to keep our honor clean. And we stick to the rules of engagement. Well, our enemies understand that. And what they do at times is use those rules of engagement against us. So what they started to do is, as soon as the early morning, our reconnaissance teams were compromised pretty early on due to the vegetation or lack thereof. And the enemy started to use children to be able to probe our dead space. And dead space is something that we can't cover with direct fire or observation. And what they did was they used children to figure out where we were at and where they could find a hole. They did it to my team, and they were doing it to Matt's team. We called this in, we understood what were the implications that were happening. At about 10:45 in the morning, I heard the first gunshots. I heard a distant sound of the M240 Bravo, our 7.62 machine gun, ripping about 7 kilometers off to the northwest. And I knew in my heart that Matt's team was in duress. At that point, we had a choice. We had a choice to go and work to save our other teams, or we had the understanding that over my left shoulder, as you heard today, helicopters were approaching. And the helicopters that were approaching were the young men and women of 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, the infantry battalion that we were supporting, and we had a choice to make. Fulfill our mission or save our friend. For 30 minutes, I listened to Matt over the radio. As the team leader, he was fighting desperately to save his team. Being ambushed by around 40 Taliban fighters, an 8-man reconnaissance team stands no chance. They kept coming in waves, and Matt, working with our Joint Terminal Air Controller, doing as best as he could to guide in the Cobras and the Harriers. Matt also made a choice. His choice was to give his life in order to save his team. And I listened to the last words my best friend ever said, calling in an airstrike to make sure that his remaining team members could make it. And I decided to stay and help the Marines that I had given my oath to, the infantry Marines of 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines. And to this day, I'm not sure I made the right decision. It's one of the things that plagues me most as I go through my days and when I lay my head down at night. See, after Matt was killed and 2 of his other team members were killed, our platoon was broken. Our reconnaissance platoon is normally pretty small, 24 men in total, and we lost 3 that day. And so our platoon was effectively ineffective. So we came back to our firm base at Fob Cafaretta on a dot on a map that no one will ever remember. And I remember being lost as the surviving team leader, understanding that it was my duty to be able to lead the platoon as best as possible, to give them an example of who they needed to emulate. But myself, I couldn't bring myself to do it. And so what I did was go into a box. And I have with you here something very special today. So to the service members, to the volunteer organizations, to the family members of this community, I want to thank you for being my rock. What one of the organizations out there did was they had a group of high school students write letters to service members. And they're called Any Mouse or Any Soldier or Any Marine boxes. And what we'll do is oftentimes we'll just go by that box and we'll pick up and we'll grab a letter. And we'll read that letter and it'll give us a little taste of home. And sometimes we'll write back. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read that letter today. And I'm going to lose it. To whomever gets this letter, hi, my name is Angela, and I'm 14 years old, and I live in Sunnyvale, California. That's the Bay Area. A lot of people don't know that. I'm writing this letter to you at exactly 10:48 p.m. because I found myself lying in bed, remembering what my avid teacher had told me the day before. You see, our class made a poster for the troops, especially for this guy that graduated from my high school. We wrote things like thanks and good job. Yesterday, my teacher told us that a Fremont High School graduate, that's my school, Fremont High, had lost his best friend in the war. But what she told us next really hit home for me. She told us how much the joy this poster brought to the troops. She told us every morning the friend would just look at the poster and the poster would bring a smile to his face. It turns out he did this right up to the day he died. That is when I started crying. I never realized how powerful the words of a freshman in high school could be, so I decided to get up and write this letter to you while my thoughts are fresh in my mind. Now I know this isn't some fantastic poster, but the intent is the same. After hearing what my teacher told me, I hope I could touch some of the troops, or at least brighten their day. That is what I aim to do in this letter, and I hope you hear these two words I'm about to say a lot. Thank you. See, what happened was Angela went to my high school. She was my alma mater, and she wrote me a letter and sent it to Afghanistan on an anonymous postage stamp. And in the middle of nowhere, in Nowzat, Afghanistan, a dot on a map no one will ever see, I reached into a box and I grabbed a random letter, and I grabbed Angela's letter. And I lost it. See, I realized at that moment that this is exactly what Memorial Day is about. The opportunity to honor those who have served, those who have lived with us and who have given everything for us. I was lost, and Angela's letter gave me purpose. When I look into the crowd, I understand why it is that men and women like Matt give their lives. It's because of young women like Angela. It's because of young high schoolers, it's because of crowds like the one today. Because we love this republic. We love this country with all of our heart, and we're willing to do anything to be able to preserve this American way of life. I have lived 21 years in this service. I have fought, I have been wounded, and I have watched friends make the ultimate sacrifice in defense of the American ideals of liberty, upward mobility, and most of all, democracy. And this opportunity today is the perfect capstone to my career. I retired from the Marines on Thursday, and this is my last official day in uniform. And I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me the honor to give 21 years of my life to this great country. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Happy Memorial Day. Never above you, never below you, always beside you. Thank you.
Angela Tirado will now perform America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy goods with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
150 years ago, General John A. Logan, the 3rd Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, issued General Order Number 11, a pivotal document that recognized the importance of Memorial Day. In his order, General Logan proclaimed that the 30th day of May, 1868, would be dedicated to adorning the graves of our fallen comrades with flowers, a heartfelt gesture that would extend to every city, village, and churchyard across our great land. At Oak Hill Memorial Park, we proudly carry on this time-honored tradition, symbolizing our unwavering commitment to honoring the memory and sacrifice of those who have gone before us. Today, we gather and lay floral tributes, each wreath representing the brevity of their lives and the profound impact they had on our nation. Gold Star Mothers. During World War I, a blue star was used to represent each person in the military service of the United States. As the war progressed and men were killed in combat, a gold star was superimposed upon the blue star to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice. In 1928, the Gold Star Mothers were officially established from President Woodrow Wilson's approval of wearing a gold star on a black armband by American women for each family member who gave their life for the nation during World War I. The Medal of Honor is the highest military decoration awarded by the United States government. Created during the Civil War in 1862, it is bestowed on a member of the United States Armed Forces for gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty while engaged in an action against an enemy of the United States. Since World War II, over 101,000 Medals of Honor have been awarded, with over 650 posthumously. Private Jacob Parrott received the first Medal of Honor in 1863 during the American Civil War, and Dr. Mary E. Walker is the only female recipient of the Medal of Honor. Military Order of the Purple Heart. The Purple Heart Award was originally instituted by George Washington in 1782 to reward troops for unusual gallantry and extraordinary fidelity and essential service during the Revolutionary War. The criteria for the award of the Purple Heart today is to anyone serving in the military who has received non-fatal or fatal combat-related injuries. Prisoner of War, missing in action. Since World War I, over 142,000 Americans were captured during wars or conflicts, and over 125,000 prisoners of war have been repatriated. Unfortunately, 17,000 of these POWs died while in captivity. The fate of over 88,000 Americans listed as unaccounted for or missing in action since the First World War remains unknown. Civil War. The American Civil War resulted in over 1 million casualties, with over 750,000 Americans losing their lives on the battlefield. San Jose's Phil Sheridan Camp has been honoring their ancestors, many of whom are buried at Oak Hill Memorial Park, for the past 121 years on Memorial Day. Over 500 Union Civil War veterans are buried here, making it a fitting place to remember their sacrifice. Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War took place between Spain and the United States from April to August of 1898, involving 260,000 Americans. The war ended with swift and naval military victories for the United States in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. The number of Americans killed during the war was 3,289, with the addition of 260 soldiers killed in the sinking of the battleship USS Maine in Havana, Cuba, which triggered the war, bringing the total to 3,549. Oak Hill also houses the graves of Spanish-American War veterans. World War I. World War I, also known as the Great War, was an international conflict that took place from 1914 to 1918, involving most of the nations of Europe, Russia, the United States, the Middle East, and other regions. The Central Powers, mainly Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey, faced the Allies, including France, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, Japan, and the United States, from 1917 onwards. The war resulted in the defeat of the Central Powers, with 4.7 million Americans serving in the U.S. Armed Forces and 117,000 losing their lives. World War II. World War II, the Second World War, remains etched in history as one of the most significant and devastating conflicts to ever engulf the globe. From 1939 to 1945, this monumental struggle involved nearly every region of the world, with the Axis powers, including Germany, Italy, and Japan, pitted against the Allies, comprised of France, Great Britain, and the United States, the Soviet Union, and China. World War II claimed a staggering number of lives. Estimates place the death toll between 40 and 50 million, forever leaving an indelible mark on humanity. Among the nations affected, the United States saw 16.4 million brave men and women answer the call to serve. Tragically, over 407,000 American service members paid the ultimate price, sacrificing their lives in defense of freedom and liberty. Korean War. The Korean War, also known as the Forgotten War, claimed the lives of over 36,500 Americans between June 1950 and July 1953. The Korean War was a true testament to the unwavering commitment and sacrifice of our servicemen and women. In the face of unimaginable challenges, they displayed remarkable courage and resilience, fighting for the cause of freedom and defending the values we hold dear. As we lay this wreath in commemoration of their valor, let us ensure that their sacrifices are never forgotten. May this act of remembrance serve as a testament to the enduring gratitude we hold for those who so selflessly fought and gave their lives during the Korean War. Vietnam War. American involvement in the war in Vietnam began in 1961, when special advisors were sent to South Vietnam. The official end of the Vietnam era was April 30th, 1975, when the last Americans left Saigon. During the 14-year conflict, 58,226 Americans died in the war or are listed as missing in action. Members of the Darwin J. Thomas Memorial Chapter 201 of the Vietnam Veterans of America honor the memory and sacrifices of those who served during the Vietnam War. This chapter is named after Naval Aviator Ensign Darwin J. Thomas from Santa Clara, who was shot down over North Vietnam in 1966 and whose remains have yet to be recovered. The Persian Gulf War. The Persian Gulf War was a significant conflict involving the United States that served as a cathartic event for the American military. Similar to the Spanish-American War, which provided the nation with a short victorious war following the Civil War, the Gulf War helped the U.S. overcome the self-doubt and post-Vietnam malaise it had been experiencing. Between August 1990 and March 1991, approximately 430,000 Americans served during the Persian Gulf War, and 294 lost their lives for various reasons. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. The war in Afghanistan was the first major conflict of the 21st century and began as a response to the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on the United States. It started on October 7, 2001 and led to the fall of Kabul on November 13, 2001. The war resulted in the loss of over 2,400 American lives. On March 19, 2003, American and British forces initiated Operation Iraqi Freedom, which has also been referred to as Gulf War II, or the Second Iraq War. The conflict resulted in the loss of approximately 4,500 American lives in combat. Succumb to invisible wounds. I would like to take a moment to shed light on a deeply troubling issue that affects our veteran community. It is with a heavy heart that we acknowledge that 22 veterans who tragically lose their lives to suicide every day. Today, as we place the wreath of remembrance, it is imperative that we also recognize those who have succumbed to the invisible wounds of war. This wreath, aptly named Succumb to Invisible Wounds, serves as a poignant reminder of the mental and emotional struggles our veterans face long after their service has ended. While we pay tribute to the brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice on the battlefield, let us also remember those who continue to battle silently within themselves. Together, let us strive to raise awareness, offer support, and break the stigma surrounding mental health, ensuring that no veteran ever feels alone or forgotten. May this wreath stand as a symbol of our unwavering commitment to combating this heartbreaking epidemic and fostering a community that embraces and uplifts our veterans in their darkest hours. Memorial Day Tribute. General John A. Logan, the 3rd Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, published General Order Number 11 in 1868, designating May 30th as a day to honor the sacrifices of soldiers and sailors who died defending their country during the Civil War. Around 1900, May 30th was officially recognized as Decoration Day, a day to remember and pay tribute to all those who gave their lives in defense of their country in all wars. Following World War II, Decoration Day became Memorial Day, and in 1971, the National Holiday Act set it as the last Monday in May. We will now honor our fallen heroes with a memorial music selection performed by the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Pipes and Drums. Please stand and place your hand over your heart for the honors by the Rifle Squad, performed by the United States Marines of 23rd Marine Regiment, headquartered in San Bruno, California, followed by the Playing of Taps, performed by the Air Force Band of the Golden West. Let us now raise the flag and pay tribute to the red, white, and blue. Sergeant Brian Juergens, United States Army retired, will raise the flag today.
As we close our time here today, may the remembrance of the price paid for our life as a nation impel us to seek justice, to foster freedom, and to pursue the ways of peace. May our nation be a source of blessing to all of its people and to the rest of our world. And may the strength of God sustain us, His power preserve us, His hands protect us. And may He guide and direct a straight path for us. And may the grace and peace of God go now with us this day and for all our days. Amen.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the lights from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America. I sweet home.
We sure hope you enjoyed the ceremony. What an event this thing was. A lot of stuff happened on. We had a lot of great speakers today, as you noticed, and of course all the vendors and all the stuff going on here to pretty much join in on the ceremony for Memorial Day. It's such a day that people kind of stick together, and interviews we got with a lot of politicians and VIPs are really what Memorial Day is all about. I always thought it was a great day to take the chip off your shoulder and shake someone's hand that's been in the military, no matter what rank and wherever they've been, what they've done for our country. I'm proud to be on the team and the board with everybody from Oak Hill, and my big thanks to Oak Hill. You at Oak Hill folks have just been utterly fantastic. Thank you very much, and God bless you all, and see you next year.